Hi, welcome. I'm Nira Berry, life coach that specializes in your happiness and host of Happy and Healthy. And today we're going to be exploring many different ways of how you can be healthy and happy as a newborn parent. And remember to stay for my Good to Know segment at the end of each show. And so we're going to be exploring and discovering all the many ways of keeping you feeling healthy and happy. So today, let's welcome our guest, Denise Stern. So Denise, you're the CEO of Let Mommy Sleep.
Yes.
Such an interesting title.
But so obvious.
Yes. So thank you so much for coming today. And I know that new parents spend many hours, researching even before they're parents about what to do, and they get so much advice from so many different people.
Yes.
And very often when the babies come, like everything just goes out the window, right?
So true. So true.
It's not always what they expect, and every situation's different, every baby's different, and the interaction between the parents are different, circumstances. So thank you for being here today.
You're so welcome.
To set us straight and give us some good tips. So tell me a little bit about yourself and how you even got into this.
Sure. So it's a simple story, really. 8 years ago, my twins were born when my son was 17 months old, and that kind of, put the idea in my head of oh goodness, like this is a real struggle for me.
And twins and a 17-month-old.
Yeah, and then
you had your hands full.
Yeah, exactly. And it's actually not an uncommon story. I was quite sick when the girls were born. It wasn't a surprise that I was pregnant, of course, but the diagnosis came that they had to be removed immediately, right? So I was sent home on bed rest. I mean, how ridiculous, right? Like, here, lady with 2 newborns and toddler, go be on bed rest, So the concept of the baby nurse and people helping each other, of course, has been in existence forever. But I did want to bring it to the people, so to speak.
Yeah, well, that's, you really, were thrown into the fire.
Oh, yeah, and you think you know, you don't know.
Yeah. So having been through this, you created this company and to help others, I imagine, and so, if there's newborn parents, are there specific tools that they could use that you could recommend?
I always like to tell families and new parents that there are a lot of right answers. We drive ourselves crazy, with what is this? Is this normal? My baby has a dot on her face, and all of this. And of course, always use your pediatrician as your primary tool. But there are also a lot of right answers. There are a lot of ways to feed a baby that is very healthy. There are a lot of ways to, make those parenting decisions. Everything's got a name, right? We're attachment parents, where, this kind of thing, a helicopter parent, they can all be right, The one place that we can't ever, not make decisions is in safe sleep, of course, and safety. There are, very right things to do and wrong things there. But I guess I would like to tell parents just to take that breath. And, parenting instinct is a very, very strong force, and it's always right, so trust that.
Yeah. I guess that's actually important in every aspect of your life.
Well, yeah, that's true. Very true.
To really trust your gut, and very often we don't. There's outside things pulling us or whatever. But really, especially with the baby, you want to trust your instincts. I imagine that's good. And so we hear so many different things. Everybody's always got something to say, whether or not it's your Aunt Mary or your next door neighbor or somebody else that everybody, I imagine even when you're pregnant. I remember when I was pregnant that even before I had the baby, people were already telling me advice, based on how I was pregnant, even,
Yes.
And so, but I imagine there's a lot of urban legends and a lot of myths about newborn babies and what to do, and so I thought maybe you can help us kind of navigate through that.
That is so true. There are so many Aunt Marys and people in the grocery store, and they all want you to put a hat on your baby, no matter what. But which is good advice, actually.
Because so many people have been through it, and so they all feel like they've got something to say.
That's right.
They're all experts in their own way.
Yeah, and I always try to remember too, it's easy, you know, for people to say, oh, they touched my belly, or they told me to put a sweater on the baby because the baby's cold. It's just that everyone feels so much joy when they see that baby. They want to be part of it. So, you know, I think people generally mean well, which is good, right? But you're right. There are so many things, like speaking about the hat. You know, one of my nurses has advice to parents that she says all the time: don't, you know, if you're going to be asleep when your baby is asleep, don't put a hat on the baby, because we see those hats travel during the night, you know, when babies are moving, and it could obstruct airways. Now, look, it's not. I don't ever want to bring the scary pain to people, but that is one thing people always say: put a hat on the baby, put a hat on the baby. If you're not going to be watching baby, why not err on the safe side and not put that hat on, you know? So that's just one of the things that you often hear that may or may not be true, depending on each situation.
Yeah, that's actually an important one. And when you think about if you're not wearing a hat, so, you know, because I always felt that if whatever temperature I was, that's okay for the baby too. You know, not overheat the baby.
And I think, you know, as new parents, and as you say, in most aspects of life, we're trying to control the uncontrollable, you know, and you think, well, I've got this hat, or I've got a bottle, or I've got this stroller, I'll do this, and then I will have solved the mystery of the baby, you know. and you know, in fact, it's just something we keep trying to do, and it's important to know that it's a living, breathing thing, you know, having a baby, and I mean, a living, breathing situation. I mean, so, and it's okay, you can solve things and then move on to the next one. But yeah, those things that have permeated through our culture that may or may not be safe over the years are important to remember. Like the one we always hear is, you know, put rice cereal in your baby's bottle to thicken up the formula or the milk, and then your baby will sleep longer.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
That's actually kind of dangerous, you know, and especially, especially these days. Pediatricians don't want to introduce solids until 6 months. So if we're talking about, you know, stuffing a baby at 12 weeks or 16 weeks, you know, that's something you might want to, you know, not do at all. Quite frankly, it's a choking hazard, and it's also it doesn't work, you know. It just doesn't work. If your baby needs to wake to feed, they need to wake to feed.
Okay, yeah, because they think that if they overstuff them, that they'll sleep later,
right? Yeah, they just
end
up getting indigestion. Yeah, exactly. It's just not true. We see these false positives because parents typically will try that in the 8 to 12 week time when they're just like, I've had enough of this getting up through the night. Let's just try anything to get the baby sleeping. And that 8 to 12 week mark is when babies are normally stretching their sleep at night. So we think, oh it's because of this thick formula or thick milk. But it's not. It's because that's what baby's naturally doing anyway.
Yeah. So that anyway is happening. It's not necessarily based on the formula.
Exactly. I don't think there have been any studies on it that have shown that to be true.
Yeah. That's true. That's what I recall happened with my kids too as well. So what other types of myths or urban legends?
You know, I hate to break this one to parents, but the gas drops that you buy in the store, Milacon is usually the most popular brand. They're like $5, and it's not a medicine. It's just simply pops the gas bubbles in baby's tummy. In study after study, they have shown to be just as effective as a placebo. So it can't hurt, but it might not help, you know, so that's always the big one. My baby's fussy, you know, she won't stop crying. I think she has gas, so I'm going to buy this product to eliminate gas. No study has shown those products to ever be effective. So that's a sad one.
Well, so what kind of a solution can you offer instead? Like, is there a kid that you've tried something else with?
Yeah.
Like, what are your kids?
The number one thing that my staff and nurses see when babies are fussy, I mean, look, the fact is we all need to just understand that a lot of times babies cry, and that's what they do, you know, and there's nothing wrong, and it can be for 2 or 3 hours.
Babies cry?
Yeah.
Really?
you know, particularly between weeks 3 and 8. But again, it goes back to what we were saying, you know, we try, why can't I get this baby to stop crying? Well, you can't, because this baby is a separate human being, you know, and he or she's going to do what she wants. But, you know, when we talk about physical needs of the child, the thing that we often see is that babies are being overfed or fed too quickly. So that is the big way to eliminate gas. It might take 45 minutes to feed a baby 1.5 ounces, you know, and I think in our culture, to sit somewhere and do something for 1.5 hours sounds crazy, right? And not check your phone, you know. So I think,
long.
yeah. So we, you know, we need to feed our babies slowly, lots of time to burp, lots of time to soothe, and then when they really are finished nursing or eating, then they are ready and rested for sleep, you know. So so we want to do those very long feeds. We want to be feeding an appropriate amount. We have a wonderful infographic on our website. You know, when your baby's born, their tummy's just the size of a cherry, and then even when they grow to, you know, 4 or 5 weeks, it's only the size of an egg, you know. So we can't be swayed by, you see bottles, you know, and in hospitals they have those bottles that are just this big. We think, oh, that's a tiny bottle. That is a ton of formula for a baby, you know. And so, of course, with our nursing moms, you know, we hope that the baby and the mom sort of self-regulate. That's not as much of an issue for them as, you know, stuffing the baby. But the overfeeding and the feeding too quickly is usually the #1 reason that a baby is fussy.
Oh. Yeah, because all the baby bottles you see are really much bigger.
Gigantic, yeah.
And you really put it in perspective when you say that the baby's tummy is only like the size of a cherry.
Yeah, yeah. It goes cherry, walnut, egg. Yeah.
Wow. So there's only so much that you know that it could really absorb.
Yeah.
I mean, hold without it feeling like, you know, oh, wow, I wish I knew this before.
I know, right? So we just want to always, a good rule of thumb, honestly, for everything with baby care is just slow down, you know, and be present and slow down, and just your baby will tell you. I mean, it's frustrating when you go, what do you mean my baby will tell me? You know, she cries or she's not crying, you know, but if you really slow down and look, like, your baby will tell you.
Yeah, that's really good advice, because you never had, you know, I guess it's really good to have that image, that visual in your mind that the baby's tummy is really just the size of a cherry, and then maybe as it grows, the size of a walnut. Because we do, you know, we do tend to want to do things quickly and to, you know, to get as much in as we can in a short period of time. So
well, and a lot of times it's not that the parents don't know what they're doing or they're too busy or whatever. A lot of it is like, look, this is American culture, you know. We're up against the clock of maternity leave. You know, we need to get this baby sleeping through the night, or, you know, both parents are working, or even with both parents not working, we have other older siblings, and, you know, parents are doing a lot, you know, and it's, I just want to make sure I'm not blaming parents, you know what I mean? It's just sort of our American culture is fast, 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 you know, feed a lot, feed often, feed a lot, you know, so that's not always, babies don't come from this culture, you know, they come from a slow culture.
Yeah, so it's up to us to really bring that slow time and that nurturing time together. So. Okay, so we're going to take a short break. So we're talking with Denise Stern of Let Mommy Sleep, and we're going to come right back, so stay tuned.
Maybe you can make retirement happen. After all, you made home ownership happen. Homeschooling yourself on loans, beefing up your credit score.
So I'm pre-approved.
You were like, yes! Sorry. Color-coding listings, ticking boxes, and flushing every toilet in a 20-mile radius. Home sweet home. You aced house hunting. Now get the tips you need to get on track at aceyourretirement.org.
Hi, welcome back. I'm Nira Berry, your host of Happy and Healthy. And let's continue our discussion with Denise Stern. So Denise, I know that you really advocate to pay attention to cues from babies and how to, you know, handle them and what to do. And so maybe you can give us some ideas of what we should be looking for.
Well, excuse me, when we say that your baby will tell you, I think what we really mean is that if we are just in a quiet area with our baby, in that nurturing place, you know, things like eye rubbing. Okay, we know baby's tired. You know, things like, you know, going like this with their little head, that's tired, you know, and rooting, and usually the head going back and forth indicates hunger, you know. So why these things are important, and there are lots of great sources, particularly from the American Academy of Pediatrics, if viewers wanted to see those cues, like actual videos of them. Why this is important is when we talk about getting baby on a schedule, which is what every parent wants to do. Gotta get my baby on a schedule. All that we're really doing is we're not getting baby on a schedule. We're just following what every tiny human does anyway. You know, we're all different, right? But in terms of sleep, you know, we all kind of get tired at 10 o'clock at night. Your blood sugar drops between 2 and 3 in the afternoon. Same for babies, you know. So all we're doing is honoring that schedule. And the reason that we want to be attentive to these cues, particularly overnight, is because that's when we're able to get those long, comfortable stretches of sleep. I just had this conversation this morning, as a matter of fact, with a mom where, you know, we think in the middle of the night we feed baby and they kind of fall asleep during their feed, and so we put them in the crib and then we walk away and we cross our fingers and then they pop up 10 minutes later, you know. The reason is because we need to give those feeds and make sure that when we are feeding baby, they really truly are ready for a good feeding session, because then when they're then we can burp them and get them ready for sleep, and then have a 2 to 3 hour stretch of sleep, rather than popping up 10 minutes later because we didn't burp them properly and they're not comfortable.
Yeah.
So that's why they're important.
So those cues that you mentioned, those are really good to avoid, like, crying, a lot of crying.
Yeah, that's all we're trying to do, right? For the first year. So,
yeah, just to tiptoe around the crying.
Yes.
Yeah. Because really, if you know, the kid goes like that, or or you said, like, moving their head around or whatever, so that those are signals that if we pay attention to them, we can really avoid a real blowout.
Yeah, well, that's true. And especially, when your baby's sleeping, if they're starting to stir a bit, they're going to wake up in, 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes. Be ready to nurse, be ready with that bottle when they wake up, because you want to feed baby before they're in that agitated, awake, hungry state, because then they'll take in less air. That's the whole reason that we see babies get in this cycle of crying, because they're crying, they're trying to feed because they're so hungry, and they're taking in air, which is uncomfortable, which makes them cry, which makes them take in air, and it goes on and on and on. So we want to try to break that cycle.
Yeah. Well, that's good advice, and that's actually very important to remember. So I read that this is very important for new parents, that 1 in 7 women will get postpartum depression, and I thought that was really high. I didn't realize that, and even 10% of men get postpartum depression, which that I never really knew. So can you tell us about that?
Yeah, and this is a subject that is kind of just now coming to light. Of course, we've all known about it forever, but I have to say, like, our celebrities in our country who have been very brave in coming forward with this stuff, they have really helped out to at least get health care providers and not healthcare providers so much, but moms speaking with their healthcare providers about this, and even moms' partner and dads. Oftentimes, with dads, there are studies that show that 25% of dads can experience what's called postnatal depression. It's called paternal postnatal depression for dads. So, and you would think it kind of flips everything on its head, because you think, oh, it's mom's hormones, oh, there she goes with the hormones. But it's not that, it's something deeper. And for our dads who may be predisposed to depression, they're under a lot of stress, or they have a history of, depression in their families, it is a real issue, you know, and so you're exactly right. It's something that we should continue to talk about. We advocate for, my team advocates for postpartum visits in the home because, you know, everyone says the same thing, like, oh, they kicked us out of the hospital after 2 days or 3 days, and how the heck could they send me home with this baby knowing that, you know, I'm just healing myself,
Yeah.
right?
So
and
unprepared.
So, yeah, so we advocate for at least mental health screenings, you know, within the first 7 to 10 days home. I mean, hopefully we can get there sooner, but we know that within those first 2 weeks, you can either go this way or you can go that way.
Can you really tell the
And-
first 7 days?
Well, mental health screenings do exist that can tell,
Really? Okay.
you know, and so, but yeah, if it's just regular old baby blues, you know, versus depression, there is a very clear line that healthcare providers that are trained in that will be able to see. So that's, if we could do that for our parents in this country, we would all be better off, to be really honest with you.
And if they see it as, what do they do? Like it's curable.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. That's the thing with postpartum depression and postpartum issues. It is always 100% manageable or curable with medication and intervention. 100%, you know? So the challenge, of course, is getting people to accept that. Everyone thinks, well, not me. I mean, I'm strong, you know, and all of that. And it just doesn't, none of that matters, you know? It's just, you are in a situation that is very unique and stressful, and it is okay if you need help. I've talked to dads quite often where, you know, I will describe to them what happens in a postpartum visit when a nurse comes to visit. One of the things is head-to-toe assessment of mother and partner, and they, every single time they say, well, I don't need that, you know, and like, why don't you need it? You know, so there's still this stigma, you know, particularly among males that, you know, big, strong people don't need mental health screening, you know, and that's just something that we hope changes soon, you know, because it can be anybody.
Yeah. So what are the symptoms that, you know, maybe people should be alert to?
Sure, and they're for men in particular, I like to tell folks to go to postpartummen.org. They have a wonderful checklist. But, you know, not wanting to connect with baby is kind of the big one.
Oh, kind of like feeling disconnected?
Yeah, not interested. You know, it's tough for me to say right now because there are the things that we all normally feel. You feel very out of sorts. You're tired. I mean, of course, you know. But if you notice that your partner is crossing the line,
can you give me an example of maybe somebody that you've worked with?
There are actually quite a lot of examples, and the sad thing is that there are not always places for these people to go, you know, but I will tell you that we are quite often in homes where mom is in hospital and dad or mom's partner is at home with the newborn and they don't have any paternity leave. Like, what the heck are they supposed to do, you know?
They feel overwhelmed.
Yes, and you know, and they have to go to work, you know, so they're going to be up with a baby, and then who's watching the baby, you know, when they're at work or you know, needing to be present for going to work, kind of thing. The, you know, extreme things that happen are when you hear mom talk about harm to her baby, you know, things that would be very shocking to someone not in that situation, but seems normal.
Yeah.
I think that is the most striking example and also not uncommon, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, that's, I would think that's something that obviously, you know, very, very obvious. And I'm sure that there's other things as well.
Yeah.
You know, I wanted to ask you, I know that you also help a lot of military families. And so I wanted to hear a little bit about that.
Yeah,
you know, because they also
so
struggle with that, and that's even more difficult because if a parent is deployed.
Well, and that's so true. There's just this very quiet, you know, we all seem to have forgotten, you know, that there's this quiet community of military who are still deployed, you know, who are being deployed and coming home wounded and sometimes deceased, you know. So we have a nonprofit called Mission Sleep, which supports military and first responder families where one parent is deployed, wounded, or deceased. And this also goes for firefighters and police forces where one parent is on night shift, you know, for 2 weeks straight, or you know, off, if some of the firefighters are in California right now, you know, fighting those fires, and their babies were just born too, you know. Life doesn't stop, you know. So we see plenty of moms whose babies arrive when their partner is deployed or wounded, and sometimes deceased, and so we offer them free care. It's just, you know, no questions asked. So thank you for mentioning that.
So please, if people want to find out more information, you know, how do they reach you? Can you give out your website?
Sure, very easy. It's letmommysleep.com. Our phone number is also very memorable. It's 844-MOM-BABY. And so those would be the two easiest ways to reach us.
Okay, great. And if there was one tip or one tool that you could give that helped you the most when you had your 3 little ones at the same time, what would that one be? Or maybe 2?
Well, I'm going to tell you 2. First of all, the Amazon delivery or Amazon Prime, just use that, people. You know, the get your diapers in 2 days or 2 hours or whatever it is. Get everything you can possibly get delivered. Do that. And the second thing is what I said at the beginning, which is, you know, good advice, I think, is that there are a lot of right answers. Your friend is going to be doing something different. Your friend's not wrong. You're not wrong. You know, as long as you're not compromising safety, there are so many wonderful, wonderful ways to raise our babies.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. I think you've, you know, helped so many people that are out there that are going through this, either as newborn parents or as grandparents or even neighbors, anybody who, you know, who's, you know, there's always babies that could use that good advice and good information. So thank you so much, Denise Stern, my guest today. And we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to listen to what's good to know. I'm Nira Berry, your host of Happy and Healthy.
Oh, emojis! I thought the conversation just got dumber.
Ugh, internet trolls, just ignore them.
I like you just the way you are.
I believe in you!
She's a hugger. Give her a squeeze.
Help up the hand!
Ah, there you go.
Thanks, mate.
You're killing it, Jane!
Hi, I'm Nira Berry, life coach and your host of Happy and Healthy. And now it's time for What's Good to Know. And what's good to know is about honesty and integrity. So look deep inside, like really, really look deep inside yourself. And do you feel that you're really an honest person? Are you always truthful? Do you feel like you walk around with integrity? Well, most of us probably do. But when I'm referring to all this, I'm thinking of not just how we deal with others or how we look at others, but really our honesty within ourselves. Like how truthful are we for ourselves? And so I really feel that we can really have a much better quality of life if we just stick with the standard, ha. And you may say, what's that? And it's not what you think. It's HA. It stands for honesty always. And it's not just like for others, but really for honesty within ourselves, because we can really have a much better life living with honesty. If you look inside yourself, you may notice that maybe there are some issues that you feel you're very truthful about, but maybe within yourself, you're actually sidestepping them. Like maybe, oh, you know, you're denying this, and maybe you're leaving out like a little fact within yourself. And when you do this, when you're not living authentically, you're actually chipping away at your soul and not really living your best life ever. And, you know, it could possibly be work-related. Maybe you're not admitting that it's time to move on. Or maybe it's a type of healthy relationship that you want to have that maybe you're not quite there yet. And maybe it's something within yourself that you might need to just, you maybe change a little bit or maybe even rewrite your own story. I work with a lot of clients that I help them rewrite their stories. And of course it takes small steps, really small steps to really admit the truth to yourself about many things. And you can do this. And so think about it. Think about looking within yourself and seeing how honest and truthful you can be to yourself within yourself. And I bet you that you will have a much better quality of life and a happier life when you do that. So let me know what you think. I'm Nira Berry, your host of Happy and Healthy, and I'm a life and happiness coach, and you can reach me at happyandhealthy@mmctv.org. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a happy day.